Hi, everybody. I tried to record this last night. My phone said, I don't have any more memory. I'm like, oh, really? And then it had to do an update, and that took a long time. And I'm like, by the time that got done, I'm like, oh, but let's get back into it. We're at the Emperor now. And the Emperor is, let me get my elbow here. There we go. The Emperor is Hemlock. Okay, so we have Tusca Hurtophilia, Phylla, and that is actually the western hemlock. And then we have Tusca cannabinaceae, which you don't have in here, but that is the eastern hemlock. And they're all pine species. So let's get on to say what the book says. The Emperor. Build strong boundaries. A sturdy structure supports abundant growth. Own your authority. A square mandala lies on a wooden table. An 8-pointed star made of hemlock combs forms the centerpiece. 4 small houses crafted of branches grow out of the star. Sprigs of hemlock separated by yellow rose petals adorn the top and bottom. Hemlock cones and tips from an expansive rectangular framework around the piece. A strong foundation and a safe environment build a solid future. Hemlock is ideal for framing houses because it is a soft wood that toughens with age. Trust your boundaries. They may feel pliable at first, but they will strengthen over time. By creating the conditions for other plants to thrive, hemlock is an important part of a healthy ecosystem. Build a reliable scaffolding on which your sacred work can grow. Step into leadership with confidence. Crafting with the Emperor. Frame an altar with hemlock. Place objects representing what you want to protect inside. Drink vitamin-rich hemlock tea to support your body during intensive creative or spiritual growth. Embody the power of the hemlock. Stand tall with your crown reaching to the sun and your roots firmly in the earth. Important notes. We refer to the evergreen conifer tree, not the dangerous herbaceous flowering plant, poison hemlock. So that's a good note to know. So hemlock is part of the pine family. So let's go into that today. And today's book, and I think we had this the other day, is one of today's book is Botany in a Day by Thomas J. Elps. And this is actually for the western United States. But any temperate region has very similar plants. So this is like, there's almost every area, be it desert or temperate or northern clime, has the pine family. And that's what hemlock is part of the pine family. Members of the pine, so it's called Pineaceae family. It's part of the conifer class. Members of the pine family are naked seed plants, even though the seeds are highly protected under the scales of developing cones. Let's see what else. The pine family, we know it originated about 1 million years ago. Worldwide, there are 10 genera and 250 species. Amber is the fossilized pitch from this family. So, you all with the stones and all, amber stone is a fossilized. The pine family produces edible seeds that are rich in oils, although they are small and difficult to gather from most species. The needles may be used as in a tea for a beverage or medically for a diuretic. The pine family is highly resinous, useful for expectorant properties, but overconsumption may lead to kidney complications. Be sure to read more about resins in the medical property sections of this book. And that's something I got to work on, and I'm really befuddled right now because I have so much going on in my life. But I want to get on my Patreon page. It's Properties of Plants. Basically, there's several different names, constituents, compounds, chemical makeup, and just get into the basics because it's really important. If you're really serious about studying herbalism, is something that you should know about. So that he writes here in Tusca hemlock tree, please note that there is a relationship between the hemlock tree, that there is no relationship between the hemlock tree and poison hemlocks. Poison hemlocks is a plant that can be confused with angelica. It's part of the parsley family. So, and there's I know angelica is one, sweet anise, lace, and wild carrot is part of that family. That's something we could talk about. Tusca is an astringent, diuretic, and diaphoretic. A tea of the bark or twigs is used for sore mouth or throat and kidney or bladder problems. Externally, it is used as a wash for sores. Lust. It comes from this book. The inner bark was reportedly used by Indians for food in springtime, which makes perfect sense because it's rich in vitamin C. And the resin is what makes turpentine, and the resins you can also burn. So if you have pines near you, collect the resin to make a nice incense. So the other book we're going to take from today is Tree Medicine and Tree Magic by Ellen Everett Hopman. And basically what this is a combination of information that she has gathered from different sources. And I can tell you from somebody that's done a lot of studying of herbs, I know exactly where she got her information from because some of it's almost verbatim. Okay, so let's get into pine. And she talks about other pine trees. The eastern hemlock, like I talked about, is the Candinaceae. And the other one is with what she has in the book, this one, the western hemlock. So we have spruce, hemlock, spruce, white pine, and balsam fir. So let me just, the rich symbol of pine, and I think she has more of pine in the deck as I remember, so we'll get into that a little bit more. But pine is one of the most prolific of the softwood timber and is used for lumber, furniture, construction, paneling, musical instruments, toys, household implements, poles, and pilings. It is an important food and shelter source for wildlife and has ornamental value for humans. Native Americans used pine needles for baskets and decoration and ate the nuts and used the resin as a type of glue. Pine nuts from the white pine were ground and added to soup. The bark of the eastern hemlock dyes wool, brown without the addition of alum. Pine resin is used by violinists to condition their bows. It is also used in varnishes, sealing wax, resinous brown soap, paper maches, and for brewers' pitch to coat the inside of beer casks. So let me go to, she has some just in here about hemlock, but she really goes into, where did I see that? I know she had something specific about hemlock. The hemlock is used homeopathically for mucus conditions that relate to the stomach and uterus. Such conditions are compiled by cold, clammy skin and hands, exhaustion, and gawning hunger. So the hemlock is quite, and along with pine is quite useful. And then she has magical uses. So you that are interested in magical uses will really enjoy this book about the magic of pine. So pine is, hemlock is very useful, and it has a lot of uses, and I would encourage you to see what you can find in your area for a pine, because they're all kind of different, but they all have similar properties, and they're very important for usage. I was looking for my other book. I just kind of got everything scattered, so but we shouldn't, what I'm trying to say here is we shouldn't overlook the trees. There are a lot of trees that have medical purposes, and not only the pines, we have, everyone is familiar with maple. There are birches that have medical properties. So we can't exclude the trees when we talk about herbalism, because they have just as much to offer as the smaller plants. But one of the problems with trees is that it takes them a long time to grow compared to shorter plants. So over-harvesting can seriously be quite an impact on the ecosystem. And I think of like Palo Santo, which is highly popular now for burning, which is a tree. And so it's something that I'm sure will be on the endangered list, or should be at some point, because of the over-harvesting of that. And you're only supposed to harvest felled trees, naturally felled trees, but you know, where there is demand for a product, that's going to drive the suppliers to do scrupulous things, because they can make a buck. And we know making a buck is the almighty king. So here's some information. Is also common names for Testa candinaceae, and this is from John Lust. I believe this book is still in print. This is obviously extremely old copy. It's a North American evergreen that can grow 50 to 100 feet high in mountain ravines and woods and swampy areas. And like we said, it's astringent, a diaphoretic, which means it makes you sweat. A diuretic, which means that helps you get rid of excess fluid, so it makes you pee. So that can help you. That's why it's helpful. A diuretic can be helpful because you do kidneys, but overuse of a diuretic, even the prescription kind, can cause issues. A tea of the inner bark or the young twigs are helpful for those problems in edema or diarrhea. Use it also to wash external sores and ulcers, and as a gargle for mouthwash for mouth and throat problems. Put powdered bark in the shoes or tender or sweaty feet for foot odor. Well, that would make fun. That would be fun. So I would encourage you to look up your local pine and see what uses, because pines are really quite amazing, and you don't have to take down the whole tree. You can gather a few handfuls of pine needles, and they will make an excellent tea just to experiment with. You can also dry them and burn them if you have a safe pot to burn them in. So I'm going to end here now, and I hope you enjoyed this. And I'm trying to get them out daily, but it's not always going to work daily, but several times a week, I'm sure. So we can get this out and get this going. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button. Please subscribe. Please check out my Patreon, my PayPal, if you feel so inclined to do a donation for what I'm doing, and also my website. Many blessings, and remember to be wild.